Hi, I'm Gordon Luckett. I want to welcome you to AutoCAD Map 3D Essential Training. In this course, we'll explore how to enrich your data using AutoCAD Map and make it extremely intelligent. First, we start with a basic AutoCAD drawing and enrich it with attributes both inside the DWG and by connecting it to a database. Next, we'll connect to, stylize, and perform analysis such as overlays on standard GIS data. Finally, we wrap it all up by publishing your data and maps into a web-based mapbook. We will be covering all these features, plus plenty of other tools and techniques. Now, let's get started with AutoCAD Map 3D Essential Training. If you are a member of lynda.com, you have access to the exercise files used throughout this course. The file should be extracted to the root of C. In the exercise files folder, you will find all the different chapters in the course. Within each individual folder, for example, Chapter 7, you will see folders for each video. For example, Chapter 7, Video 1, is in 0701. The data stored in here, the DWG, the SDF, the shape, including all its associated files, such as PRJ and IDX, are all stored in the same directory. These are all the files you will use during this video. Let's go back to exercise files. There is a data sources PDF. This contains links to the raw data used in this course. Much of this data was modified to fit with AutoCAD Map, but if you want to download the original data sets, you will find the links in this document. Let's get started. In this lesson, you will learn how to create object data tables that are used to store your own custom properties. Every feature in your DWG can have object data attached, and this starts with the creation of a place to put that data, the empty object data table. Let's create one. First, you must set your current workspace. Click the Workspace button at the bottom of the screen and make sure that Planning and Analysis workspace is set up. That way, the buttons will be where we expect them to be. First, click Map Setup. Click Define Object Data. In the Define Object Data dialog box, click New Table. For the table name, we'll call it Streets. Next, we'll have to add field definitions. In this case, we'll call it Feet ID or Feature ID. These will be unique numbers assigned to each street segment. We'll make sure the type is integer, meaning whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than using something like character, which are any type of character, point, which is X, Y, Z, or real, which has decimal points. For description, we will enter unique ID for streets. The default will be 0. So each time you add a new street segment in the object data table and fail to enter a new number, it will automatically put the number 0. Let's click Add to add this column. Now we have Object Data Field Feature ID. It's called Feet ID, Unique ID for Streets, and the default is 0. Let's add another one. So in the field name, I will type Street. This will be the street name itself. The description will be Street Name. Be sure to change the type to character so that we could type decimals, we could type question marks, or any other symbol or letter or character for the name of the street. For the default, clear that. We don't need a default street name. Click Add to finish that field definition. Now we have streets with two object data fields, Feet ID and Street. Click OK to complete. You will see the Define Object Data dialog box has the table called Streets with two fields in it, Feet ID 0 and Street with no default. Click Close to complete. You have learned to create an empty object data table that will eventually contain all your attribute data that will attach to AutoCAD features in the future. Object data can be part of any feature in your DWG when using AutoCAD Map 3D. With an empty object data table, you can then add custom information to all your graphics in the DWG. Let's try this out. First, we're going to make sure we're in the right workspace. So at the bottom of your screen, under Workspace Settings, make sure that Planning and Analysis workspace is checked. Next, we're going to zoom into the area where we're working. So click the View tab, then click on Suffolk Street West, and you'll see it zoom in. We're going to draw a new line between the two green circles. So at the command line, type line, L-I-N-E, enter. In the bottom green circle, click the center, and then the upper green circle, click the center of that, and press enter. There's a brand new line. Next, we're going to attach object data to that brand new line. So we're going to click the Create ribbon. We're going to click the Attach Detach Object Data button, and we'll bring up the dialog box. you'll see by default the only table listed is streets. If we had multiple object data tables, you'd see other names in here apart from streets. For the unique ID, pick on that. Under Value, enter 4000. That'll be our new ID, and press Enter. For street name, enter Suffolk Street W and press Enter. You will see unique ID for streets is 4000 and street name is Suffolk Street West or Suffolk Street W. To attach this new data to the line you just drew, click Attach to Objects, select that new line, press Enter. The data is now attached, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Let's look at the properties to see that data. Right-click. After selecting the line, pick Properties, scroll to the bottom of the Properties dialog box, and you will see under OD, meaning Object Data, Streets, the name of the table, that Feature ID 4000 is listed, and Street, Suffolk Street West, is also listed. As you can see, attaching object data to your DWGs will enhance your information and enrich the amount of data that is available to you in the future. Pre-existing object data enriches your DWG and enables you to get much more out of your drawing. Editing that data takes this enrichment to the next level. In this lesson, you will learn 2 different ways to edit that object data that already exists in your drawing. Be sure to set your workspace to Planning and Analysis workspace so all the ribbons will match what we're doing. Next, under the Tools, under Map Edit, click the Edit Object Data button. Pick any street you wish. You will notice object data is already attached to that line. The unique ID has already been set, and the street name has already been entered. You could easily edit that data at any time just by typing. For example, in Stone Road East, I'm going to type E-A-S-T, Stone Road East, and click OK. Now if I were to pick that item again and click Edit Object Data, you'll see Stone Road East. I can correct that by using another method. If I pick on that object, right-click, and go Properties, I can go in and change that back to E simply by editing the Properties pane, change it back to Stone Road East with an E. Okay, let's close the Properties pane. Pick the View tab. Under Views, click Suffolk Street West. Let's select the line, right-click, go Properties, scroll to the bottom of the Properties pane, and let's correct another one. In this case, it says Suffolk Street West. Let's change it to Suffolk Street W. Press Enter. Done. All you have to do is save your drawing, and the changes will be permanent. Object data gives you the ability to share attributes with anyone who uses the DWG. Enriching these DWGs with object data opens the door to advanced queries as well as data sharing and distribution. Connecting to databases is an extremely powerful way to get information into your drawing that you or your department does not maintain. For example, you may want to attach billing information to your drawing directly from accounts receivables to each customer point on the map. In this lesson, you'll learn how to attach a database to your current drawing. Let's do that now. I'm going to drag and drop an Access database into a blank drawing. I have the zoning MDB file. I'm going to drag it into the Map Explorer task pane. Once you drag and drop it in, you'll see it automatically forms a data connection called zoning. You'll see the table called zoning is now inside. By double-clicking on it, you will see a table inside of the Access database right inside of your AutoCAD map window. By double-clicking the zoning header, you can sort alphabetically or alphabetically in reverse, same with the parcel ID, ordered or reverse order by double-clicking. We can also filter this data. For example, if I click on the SQL filter, I can filter by the column under the where conditioning where the zoning equals, and I could type something in here or click the browse button delimited by 3 dots. This will give me a distinct list of all the zoning in that particular column. If we scroll down to the very bottom, you will see UR. Let's pick that and click OK. I'll add this to the query. You'll see zoning equals UR, and we'll click OK. Now you will see the only data listed in your data view are UR. Let's go back in and search for something else. Click on the SQL filter. We're going to delete the previous SQL filter. Under where condition, you'll change your column to zoning. In this case, we're going to change the operator to like. So we're not going to use the equal sign, we're going to use like, so we can get something like what we're looking for. We want all the residential. It just so happens that all the residential starts with a capital R in a period, And to get everything that begins with capital R period, you have to put a % sign. That's a wildcard. Once you've done that, click Add. You will see zoning like R period % sign. Click OK to filter. Now you can see the zoning is now filtered by R period. Double click on zoning to see all the different types. For example, at the top, you see R.1a. You scroll through, the last one is R.4d. Now that you've seen how to attach databases, you may now have many databases you wish to connect at your organization. And now you can. Depending on your username and password, you may also be able to edit that data too. Binding records from an external database to each of your objects in AutoCAD is an effective way to keep your data up to date. In this lesson, you'll learn how to create a bridge between the database and the AutoCAD objects themselves, and how to maintain those links. We'll zoom in and have a look at some of the data. So we have text features inside of each polygon. Here's one now. If I right-click on that parcel, you'll see that it is indeed a polyline. And if I scroll to the bottom, under miscellaneous, you'll see that yes, it is closed. So AutoCAD Map treats closed polylines as a polygon. Having a closed polyline is critical for linking a database to a polygon. The text inside of each polygon will be used to tie to the database. Let's attach the database now. I'll browse to the zoning data database, and I'll drag and drop it into my task pane. The zoning database appears. You'll see the zoning table. What we need to do next is tell AutoCAD Map what column to use to link to those pieces of text on the screen. We will create a link template to tell AutoCAD what column to use. So right-click on Link Template and define a link template. The data source is zoning data. The table name is zoning. The link template name, in this case, I'll just call it zoning LT for link template. Under key selection, any column can be used, but the piece of text on the screen is actually the parcel ID. So we'll check that as the key. Click OK. We now have a link template defined under the link template folder. Now that AutoCAD Map knows what column to use to tie the graphics to the database, we'll use that tie to generate links. Right-click on Zoning LT and Generate Links. We can generate a database link between a block on the screen, a text on the screen, a closed polyline that goes around a block, or a closed polyline that goes around a piece of text. By using the two enclosed blocks or enclosed text, what you're doing is tying a database to a closed p-line or polygon. If you just use blocks or text, you're connecting the database to a point, not a polygon. Let's click Enclosed Text to tie the database to the polygon. In terms of data links, we are creating database links, not object data links. So we'll check that. Under database validation, we can choose none, link must exist or it won't generate a link, or create if new. That means if that piece of text inside of the polygon does not exist in the database, it will create a new record to match it. We won't bother doing any database validation in this exercise. Click OK. I could select all, but instead I'm going to select on the screen those polygons I wish to link to. Zoom out a little and select all the parcels in this window here. There. Now I press Enter. 27 selected, 27 links created. Now, if I pick on any of those parcels that I've just connected to, and I scroll down in my Properties pane, you will see there's now a LT, meaning link template, zoning LT, and the data from the database is now tied to that closed polyline. We can also look inside the link template and auto-highlight, under Highlight, auto-zoom, and auto-select the features when selected. Let's highlight individually under Highlight Records, Select Objects. I'll highlight a couple objects on the screen, let them find them in the database. It's looking now, and it's found them. They're highlighted in yellow. If you only want to see those highlighted, you can go under Highlight, Show Highlighted Records Only. It'll only show the 3 that match. I can pick on any of these, and it will zoom and highlight it in the background. As you can see, I'll move this out of the way so you can see. If I pick on the next one and the next one, it's zooming and highlighting the record that is selected. You have learned that link templates tell AutoCAD Map 3D what database, table, and column to use to tie the objects to the data. Also, you have found out that once a link template is created, you can manually or automatically generate links between the database and the graphics on the map. Source drawings are those DWGs that contain all your information. Attaching source drawings to another often blank drawing enables you to combine data and query information from multiple source drawings. Let's try that. In Map Explorer, click the Data button, click Attach Source Drawings. Under Exercise Files, Chapter 3, Exercise 1, pick Buildings, Hydrology, and Streets. Click Add. Click OK, and you will see Buildings, Hydrology, and Streets DWG attached to your drawing. You cannot see them on the map yet. Right-click in Drawings and go Quick View. Ensure they're all highlighted and the zoom to the extent of the selected drawing is checked. Click OK. There is all three drawings visible in the map. If you zoom in, you can see the details. However, if you type RE and press Enter, that regenerates the map and the preview of what's inside of each file is now disappeared. If you right-click on the Buildings DWG and do a Quick View, it will only show data from the buildings. Let's regen and do the same thing for hydrology. Right-click on hydrology, Quick View, you'll just see the hydrology on the map. If you want to zoom to the extents, you can right-click on hydrology and go Zoom Extents. Let's regen again and try that with streets. Right-click on streets, Quick View, there you are. Let's regen. Let's try one more thing. Let's deactivate the streets so that's not part of our query. So right-click on streets, deactivate. You'll notice that the icon beside the streets is now grayed out. Now, right-click on drawings, do a Quick View, click OK. You'll notice none of the streets are available in your map, just the buildings and the hydrology. Regen, right-click on streets, and reactivate it. Now if we do a Quick View and click OK, make sure that all three are selected and click OK. Now you will see all three drawings in your preview. Attaching source drawings to your map means the data is not available until you query it. Using Quick View, you can quickly see what sort of data is available inside the attached source drawings. Querying source drawings using location enables you to choose or draw a boundary which will cookie-cut your data from all your attached drawings. For example, you can query only the drawings information that falls within your neighborhood, even though the source drawings will cover the whole city. Let's demonstrate. I'm going to attach drawings. Right-click on drawings and hit Attach. We're going into Exercise Files. We're going to attach Hydrology and Streets. Click Add. Click OK. Now we're going to quickly do a Quick View just to see what the data looks like. So there they are. You can see the hydrology and streets on the map. And we're going into the Query Library. So under Query Library, we're going to double-click on Current Query. We're going to get the Define Query of Attached Drawings. We have a number of types of queries: location, property, data, and SQL. In this case, we're going to do a location-based query. Let's pick on location. We have all sorts of boundaries to choose from. In this case, we're going to pick polygon. When you pick the boundary type of polygon, we can now draw the polygon from which we want to define. Let's click Define. We'll just draw an area close to downtown. Press Enter when you're finished drafting, and you'll notice that in your current query, you'll see a location, crossing polygon. If you move the dialog box slightly out of the way, you can see the red line in the background that you just drew. We're going to leave the query in preview mode so we don't actually get the data. This will just be like a quick view. Let's hit Execute Query to see. There is the data that you would cut and query through a location. Now, if I hit a redraw, it will disappear. Let's double-click on the current query again. This time, we'll run the same query again using the draw mode. If I check the draw mode under the query mode instead of preview and hit Execute Query. Oh, and be sure to hit Execute Query. If you hit OK, it will remember your settings, but will not execute the query at all. If you hit Execute Query, it will remember your settings and execute it. Now, I've rerun the query, but this time, if I hit Regen, the data stays there. I can actually highlight and pick on items from my query. Location queries are an effective tool for trimming out only the data you want in a particular area. Using the draw mode rather than preview enables you to edit data and save it back to the original file. In this way, you can edit a drawing with data for a whole country, but only edit data at a city level with the location query. Often, when querying attached drawings, you only want objects that have a particular AutoCAD property, such as layer or color. The property query is used for such a condition. For example, you may want to query all the drawings for a layer called roads, even though the roads layer spans multiple drawings. Let's try that out. We'll attach the streets, hydrology, and buildings to our current drawing. We'll do a quick view just to see what it looks like. Click OK. Double-click on Current Query, and instead of using Location, Data, or SQL, we'll be using a query type called Property. In this case, we can go into the Layer Property condition, click on Values, and choose whatever layers you'd like to query. In this case, I'm just going to pull in Streets and Buildings layers from all my attached drawings. Click OK. You'll see Buildings and Streets are both listed as a layer that we want to query. Click OK. We'll do it in preview mode for now, and click Execute. Now, since we had a quick view, we had the old layers in the background. So if we regen and run that query again, preview, buildings and streets, hit execute, now we only see the buildings and streets. Now let's regen again, and this time we're going to run that same query in draw mode and click execute query. Now we physically have the roads that we can pick on and the buildings that we can also pick on and edit within our drawing. AutoCAD properties are a useful way to filter data from your attached source drawings. After querying data that meets your property criteria, you can then use other queries to answer your questions about the data. Having intelligent source drawings that are laden with object data is an effective way to keep track of non-graphic information such as install date or pipe type. Using object data queries allows you to capitalize on this rich data by enabling you to ask questions. For example, now you can ask, show me all pipe older than 80 years by using an object data query. Let's try this now. First, we'll attach some drawings. Right-click on Drawings in the Map Explorer, click Attach, and pick on Streets and hit Add. Click OK. Let's just do a quick view. And we may also want to right-click and go Zoom Extents, because often a quick view won't just do it if you're not zoomed into the right area. Let's double-click on the current query. And instead of using Location, Property, or SQL, we're actually going to click on the Data query in this case under Query Type. We're going to choose Object Data. Now you'll see there's a Streets table already in the attached drawing with Feet ID or Street. Now, as you can see, the operator is equal, so we have to know what the street name is. Or the feature ID, we'd have to know what the numeric is. Although with numeric data, you need to use equal than, less than, or greater than. With character-based columns, you only have equal, no wildcard with object data. It is a bit of a limitation. But in this case, I know what my street name is. It's Gordon Street. So I'll type in Gordon ST, hit OK. I'll hit Draw Mode and click Execute. That street right there is Gordon Street. How do I know? If I pick on it, right-click, go to Properties, and scroll down into the object data, you'll see the feature ID and the name that matched my query. Querying graphics based on attached object data quickly shows the information you require. Once the data is drawn in your new project, you can plot, PDF, or export this information to share with other users. If your attached source drawings are tied to a database with a linked template, you can query the graphics from those drawings based on a number of criteria from the database itself. This is by far the most powerful query technique for performing source drawing queries. Let's try that. Our first step is to attach the drawing and attach parcels. This parcels DWG is attached to a database, but for us to query that database also has to be attached as well. So drag the zoning query MDB into the Map Explorer, make sure that's available. Now that we have the DWG and its associated database attached to the current session, we can now go into the current query and query from that database. Let's go into current query, double-click. We're not going to use location, property, or data query. In this case, we're going to use SQL, or structured query language, to connect to the database. Click on SQL. The link template in that drawing is called zoning query LT, link template. The columns in the database are ID, parcel ID, and zoning. In this case, we're going to pick the zoning column. The operator is going to be like, and we're going to put R, capital R, and we're also going to put a %sign and click Add Condition. We're going to say all the zoning like R. So basically, it will go to the database, find all the zoning that matches R, which is residential, and we'll be able to query back the graphics or parcels that match that criteria. So let's click OK. We want it in draw mode so we can actually pick on the objects and query them. And now click Execute Query. It may take a moment as it's going through the entire database to find all the objects that match R. Once it's done, you may not see it on the screen, though at the bottom of the screen it says that 30,000 objects have been queried. You may want to just right-click on the attached file and say Zoom Extents to get the data set. There we are. Now let's zoom in and look at some of these parcels. They've been queried in. Now if I pick on one and look at the properties, right-click, and scroll to the bottom, you'll see indeed that the zoning begins with R, so R.1b. Often, database information is maintained by other departments or agencies. Frequent queries using the attached database keeps the project up to date without having to maintain the attribute information as one has to with object data. The data is held outside of the drawing. Inserting raster images, such as air photos, satellite images, and scanned maps, add context to your drawings. Many organizations scan thousands of drawings from paper, and you have the ability to add those drawings as images to your existing drawing. Let's insert an image. Under the Insert tab, beside that ribbon, under Image, click the Image button, the Guelph UTM 17 NAT83 TIFF. Make sure the Modified Correlation is checked and click Open. In the Image Correlation dialog box, it will show where the image will be inserted and what scale it should be stretched to. The drawing is in meters, so the units will be set to meters. The insertion point shows the X, Y, and Z, as well as the scale. The density is also calculated. Click OK to insert the image. We now have an image located inside our drawing. If you pick on the edge, right-click, you could say Draw Order, Send to Back, see the corporate town line. Most raster images require a form of spatial referencing if you want to automatically locate them in the correct location in your existing map. Be sure to ask what coordinate system the image is in before trying to add it to your drawing. Often, raster images may have different colors or may be too big for the map. Using color correction and clipping, you can perfect the look and feel of images in your drawing. Let's try that now. Simply by double-clicking on the edge of an image in your drawing, you will get the Image Adjust dialog box. You can adjust the brightness, the contrast, and the fade of the image by using the slider bars or actually typing in the value. For example, I can type in 44 for the contrast. Click OK, and it will affect the image. Also, you can select multiple images by selecting their edge, and right-click, go to Draw Order, and send them to back. Now we can see the edge of the municipal town line. We can also clip this property. By clicking the edge of the boundary of the image, you can click on Create Clipping Boundary. You could say Select by typing S and press Enter. Pick the edge of the city, and the clip will be created. We could do that again for the south image. Click Create Clipping Boundary. Choose S for Select, press Enter. Pick the municipal boundary, and the southern image is clipped as well. Now, we've adjusted the color and the clipping for our images to only show the image within the boundaries of the city. Modifying the raster images in your drawing does not permanently modify the original image, though. The settings are stored within the individual DWG where the image is inserted. To permanently modify the image, it is recommended that you use a third-party image management tool, such as AutoCAD Raster Design, which works as an add-in within AutoCAD Map 3D. As an alternative to querying your data using attached drawing queries, you can use the Display Manager to query drawing information from both attached and current drawings. This drawing data technique in Display Manager has the advantage that the information queried in can be turned off and on within the Display Manager. Let's try this out. Just a note, we've had to use Windows 7 with this exercise because the tools used in AutoCAD Map for this particular exercise will not work on Windows 8 or 8.1. Let's continue. Let's drag and drop these drawings to attach them. We'll drag them into Map Explorer. Once they're attached, we can then query them in the Display Manager. In Display Manager, go Data, Add Drawing Data, Query the source drawing. If we were querying data already in the drawing, we'd use Current Drawing. But in this case, we've attached drawings, so we'll use Query Source Drawing. We're going to choose a particular layer, so we'll click Property, Layer, and browse to the Buildings layer in the attached drawings. Click OK, and OK. Our query is layer equals buildings. We'll click OK, and the buildings should appear once they've been queried in. Notice that they are the default gray from the original drawing. I'm going to click on Attach Drawing Element and rename it to Buildings. I can now toggle on the buildings on and off. Let's query in another layer using the same technique. Data, Add Drawing Data, Query the Source Drawing, Property, Layer. This time we're going to bring in the streets. Hit OK, OK, Layer equals streets, OK. We have another layer called Attach Drawings Element. We'll rename that to Streets. The streets can now be toggled on and off, just like that. So in Display Manager, querying drawing data and creating drawing layers is a quick and powerful way to have the layer that is both dynamic, based on the query, and toggleable, since it appears as a layer. Each drawing-based layer in Display Manager will inherit the style from the original drawing, but we can override that style. The styles for pre-queried layers can be overwritten temporarily using styles within the Display Manager. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that we've had to use Windows 7 instead of Windows 8 or 8.1 with this exercise. Querying source drawings have trouble in Windows 8 within AutoCAD Map. Let's begin. First, we'll drag and drop the streets and buildings to attach it in the Map Explorer. Close the warning. Now, when we go into the Display Manager, we got to make sure that the significant buildings and major streets are pointing to the right drawing that we just attached. Depending on where your exercise files are located, you simply have to right-click on Buildings, go to Properties, and where it says Attach Drawing, make sure you browse to the right one, in this case, Buildings. Pick on the buildings, hit OK. That should update the connection. We'll do the same for major streets. Pick on that. Make sure the streets are selected in the list. Hit OK. And close. You can clear your messages because both streets and buildings are drawn in your map. Notice they're inheriting the original drawing. The buildings were gray in the original drawing, and the streets were black in the original drawing. Let's see how we can override these settings, at least temporarily. If we right-click on significant buildings and hit Add Style, we'll add a hatch pattern. We have other options, such as adding text or annotation or symbols, but in this case, since these are polygons, we're going to add a hatch. Once the hatch style is added, we can change it simply by picking on hatch style, right-click, click Properties. We're going to change the fill color. So pick on color. Let's pick a color. In this case, cyan. Click OK. Close the Properties dialog box. Let's zoom in to see how that looks. Next, we'll change the symbology. Pick on Significant Buildings layer itself, not the hatch style. Right-click, choose Properties. The thumbnail preview is a line, but these are hatches, so let's change that to polygon. Now you will see that the thumbnail preview is a polygon. Close the Properties panel. Now let's change the major streets to red. So right-click on Major Streets, hit Add Style, in this case, just an entity. Pick on the entity style, right-click, go Properties. We're going to change the color to red, and all the roads change to red. Let's change the symbology as well, so pick on Major Streets. The thumbnail preview is line, which is fine, but we're going to choose Polyline to show a wavier line. As you can see, it's wavy. If I chose line, it's straight, but Polyline shows a wavy one. Remember, because we have the ability to toggle layers on and off, we can always turn off the streets. We can also turn off the entity style, meaning we could revert back to the original style, the black line, or turn on the entity style and see the red line. Using styles for drawing-based layers is an effective way to stylize DWG-based data without permanently modifying the original or having to copy the original just for the map. This is how it's done most of the time anyway. Importing GIS data converts the various industry standard formats directly into AutoCAD objects. Most GIS data has a rich set of attributes attached, so to maintain this, we need to store those attributes in object data. Once we import the data, the original data is no longer necessary or used. We don't need the files anymore. Let's try this out. Click the Insert tab, and under Import we click Map Import. Browse to 0601. We'll pick on the Guelph Trails. We're importing an Esri shapefile. We can import many different types: text files, SDF files, coverages, map info, microstation, and so on. In this case, we're bringing in a Esri shapefile. Pick on the Guelph Trail shape and hit OK. During the import, we can import one or many shapefiles. We can rename the layer it's going on by simply clicking in there and typing, or under Drawing Layer, you can hit the Browse button. In this case, we'll just type trails. The input coordinate system will stay the same. Pseudo Mercator, which is the Google coordinate system, will